to another episode of the Who Dat Jedi podcast. With me, I'm Aaron, by the way, and with me, as always, is Dave and Fredo. And this week, we are not in the hustle and bustle of Zony Mash. You can tell it's a little bit quieter. We're at our remote locations once again. So, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
That was a
Doing
that,
okay.
that was a that was fun last week. We actually have fans. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, it was strange seeing people go like, "Wait, I know you guys. Do you do?"
Well, and people wanting to come up and do trivia and and stuff like that. So it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Um, but and I understand it was a successful venture for the event, Dave? Yeah.
Yeah. The fundraising aspect was very successful. Everybody seemed to love the band. A lot of people blew off some steam that they'd been collecting for the last year. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
It,
good
it,
event.
wa- it was it's a good event, and I've kind of been looking at the way kind of people are slowly emerging, and without getting too much into the dynamics and politics of it, just simply, I think I've told everybody like, take it slow, take it easy, because you think you want to run out and do everything, and
Just
then you get out there and it's not as easy.
yeah, do what you're comfortable with. I mean,
Yeah,
dip your toe in the water and whatever you want
yeah.
to do. So I have to tell you guys, I've found I am not one to subscribe to YouTube channels. I just typically don't, but I
Mhm.
have subscribed to a YouTube channel, and this has nothing to do with Star Wars. Has everything to do with music. I was telling Fredo a little bit about this. It's Rick
Yep.
Beato.
Yep.
This guy has this whole channel. Just at first, I mean, first of all, it's just because I my bachelor's degree is in music, and in music education. So he goes through all these rock songs, and like his big playlist is what makes this song great. And so he goes through like all these songs that you grow up with, and he's analyzing it like we analyze you know Bach or Mozart or stuff like that in theory and in music history. And so I'm just like nerding out over all of this. Because I'm like he's talking about all these chord changes that they're using. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And anyway, speaking my language. But anyway, so I'm watching this thing last night, and he said it was the fall of 1991, and I never realized this. I mean, this is when I'm a fall of '91, so I'm just starting college. Do you guys realize in a 6 week period, the following albums were released: Metallica Black,
Mhm.
Pearl Jam 10, Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, Red Hot Chili Peppers Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Soundgarden, uh, Bad Motor,
Chicago.
no Bad Motorfinger, Motorfinger, right? And
Mhm.
then there was one other one.
Nirvana.
Nirvana, Nevermind. In 6 weeks, those six albums are released, and then of course in like 2 months later, you get like U2, Octung Baby.
Mhm.
Holy crap! I didn't I didn't realize this. It's like wow. I mean,
Yeah, and I love his channel. That what makes the song great because it allows me to like. I watch it. I'm a complete music neophyte. I have no idea about musical theory, but it's a good way to kind of start digging deeper into some of songs that I've known, and you start hearing it, and you go like, "Oh yeah, it totally makes sense." There's even stuff like you'll find like stuff hidden in the background of stuff, and you're
yeah,
like,
because he
"Oh,
he has the tracks. He has
mhm,
he'll solo the individual tracks. So it is really cool. And it's if you don't know anything about music theory or anything like this, just to see how a song is put together in a recording studio or something, it's so fascinating. So that's my nerd out. Um, but
Can I
then
say something off of that? Since we're pimping YouTube channels, I would recommend Cinema Wins, not Cinema Sins.
I love Cinema Sins.
Cinema Wins. Very positive take on like why do we love these movies that we love.
mhm,
And it's all framed positively. It's like, what do they do right? This is why these resonate with people. It's really cool. So
yeah."
Well,
that's I like the positive. We try not to get too much into the negative here,
You know,
but
the cinema sins part is just, yeah, it's negative, but it's just fun. It's like, poking out, pointing out plot holes and stuff like that. It's just kind of fun.
Mm.
But okay, but so speaking about cinema wins or cinema sins, Dave and I and our spouses got together Friday night and we watched something. Um, we
That's
we
the
we
best way to
watched
describe it.
we we went to Dave's backyard and had the projector out, and it was a gorgeous night. And we sat and had buffalo wings that Dave deliciously made, and his wife Kate made a lot of goodies to go along with them. And we watched Ewoks: The Battle of Endor. That was the one, right? It was the Battle of Endor, right?
Mhm.
Because
yeah, the
here's
first one.
because here's the thing: there was no battle for Endor in the Battle for Endor.
I thought
Uh,
the battle for Endor was in Return of the Jedi.
so anyway, so we watched that and we got done. I really don't know how I feel about things. The thing that first freaked us all out was that Wicket speaks English. I mean,
But
now
does he?
now it's like, your relative that doesn't, speak any English and is just learning English. It's that, that broken, just kind of stammering through it. But it was weird. I don't know. The other, okay, and this is the other thing I've thought about this actually, Dave, for for a day now. One of the things that drives me bonkers, and it drove me bonkers with The Force Awakens, and it drove me bonkers with The Mandalorian. One of the key elements, something that makes Star Wars, at least from the original trilogy and from even the prequel trilogy, are the laser blast sounds. Those are iconic. And so, what does this have to do with the Ewok movie? They have like the Battlestar Galactica pew pew, type. They're just, it's like somebody's, seventh grade kid, made the laser blast sounds for the Battle of Endor. But it was the same
Very
type of thing.
Spaceballsy.
It was like the in uh Force Awakens. I'll never forget when Poe shoots his rifle. I'm just like, what is that? And so my wonder is like, okay, so I'm thinking about, okay, this is like the first kind of foray into Star Wars TV, right? Battle of Endor.
This is
And
the second one, I think. I actually think Caravan of Courage came out first, and we watched them in the wrong order. But I might be wrong about that.
okay, well
We have to
anyway,
we have to fact check this.
then you still had time to fix the laser blast sounds, because even if you're like, okay, we don't have the budget to do, but you still own ILM, and you can go get the sound files to make it at least sound like Star Wars.
Yeah. So just right quick, Caravan of Courage comes out in 1984. The Battle for Endor, 1985.
All
So
right.
they're like one another. But yeah,
We watched them out of order. Ah,
you
that's
would
so
think that
terrible.
if anybody had, because those sounds are copyrighted, aren't they not? Like you can't, uh, Battlestar Galactica couldn't use the same laser blast sound that Star Wars did. I don't think.
I have no idea. I'm just saying that it's irresponsible for. I mean, it wasn't like the people who made Battlestar Galactica was making a Star Wars thing. It's You're making Star Wars, so I mean, you should have access to those. I mean, come on. We fast forward several years, and they let, Family Guy use the entire John Williams soundtrack and all of the, special effects, sounds, and everything. I mean, that's the thing that just threw me, right off the bat, was like the laser blast sounds. I'm like, that you could do that and make people go, okay, I'm in Star Wars.
That's
So
far from the film's greatest sin, though.
that's my one rant. Okay, so what is the film's greatest sin besides Principal Vernon? What is it? Oh yes, Principal Vernon from Breakfast
Yeah,
Club. He's the dad who gets killed. He messed with the bull and got the horns. So anyway,
Yeah, no, the whole thing was a mess. I loved, like, same with you. I think I have read up on the film since watching them originally back in the 80s. So I knew that the Ewoks talked, I think, but it was still so jarring that it just like throws you. Like, seriously, you're like, well, that ain't right. That's just not right. And I get it. You have to why they did it. Otherwise, they'd be speaking in Ewok the entire movie, and you'd be like, "What's going on?" You'd have to be reading subtitles the whole movie, and so I get it. But yeah, it's weird. This movie was so strange. We were watching this thing, and I was thinking at the time when we were watching it, it was the first of the two movies. And I remember reading that the second movie was seen as an overcorrection from the first.
Well, so you're
So
saying I'd
that,
have to go watch the first one now to?
yeah, now we got to go back and watch the first movie to see what they tried to correct from, because this one was all battles, poorly choreographed battles where they're just shooting at each other. And the Ewoks got inventive at the end, so like, it's like the end of Return of the Jedi, which I'm thinking that's what people thought that they were signing up for originally. Um, so I think you can kind of see that imprint on the movie. But yeah, gosh, it does not hold up. I mean, it really doesn't
Well,
in
and
any way, shape, or form.
think about we're just now we're into man how far we have come with Star Wars TV. You
Yep.
know, I mean it's like, and again it's I, it's eons ago, but man, it's like I'm just so thankful that Star Wars TV is not that right now.
So let me ask you this, because I was just thinking about this. Return of the Jedi comes out in 1983, and these two movies, Cavern of Courage and Battle for Endor, come out right after 84, 85. So were they original? So they planned to film them when they were making Return of the Jedi, or was did they see the movie? They expected a hit, and they need to make more, or
I I
did the
need to do
decision
my
making come after?
I need to do my research, but my gut tells me that they went, "Oh, everybody likes the teddy bears. Let's make a movie quick."
Because making a movie is one thing, but making a TV movie where you're not going to get the big budgets, you're not going to get the big stars, so to speak. It's gonna be obvious. I'm surprised that they went that route. I mean, I don't even know how kind of the decision train kind of got you know,
Now,
went.
to the listeners, however, okay, so if you haven't watched it yet, do, because it's not a horrible thing you have to sit through. It's kind of, but know what you're getting into. It's kind of it's just funny, especially sit around with some friends where you can do Mystery Science Theater 3000 with it. I mean, that was if I would have been sitting in my living room watching this by myself, I would have probably turned it off halfway through and went and found a beer someplace. But sitting there with friends, it was far more enjoyable, and even your kids were talking smack, behind us, like. uh, so, um,
Even the smallest child turned into what's her name, Statler and Waldorf.
yeah,
Yeah,
it,
exactly.
it was.
Speaking of, Wilford Brimley's in this movie, and I'm like watching this movie, and I'm like, I never expected to relate to Wilford Brimley in such a deep way as I do in this film, because he's just like, oh, these kids, they're annoying me. The Ewoks, everybody's annoying me.
Get out of my house.
Exactly. Get off my lawn, Ewok. And yeah, no, I just was like, yes, I feel you.
and and what
It's just
we think it might have been the first instance of glasses in Star
Star
Wars,
Wars.
and
Yeah.
maybe.
He's wearing glasses in this thing, and I thought that was so odd. I'm like, I don't think anybody wears glasses in 4, 5, and 6. And
Mm,
I don't know.
goggles, yes. Glasses, no.
So anyway, that was yeah. So we're not going to do a whole review on this, but it was it was
An
it,
experience.
and it was kind of funny because Brittany was like, oh, my sister and I, we had this, we taped this when it was on TV. We taped it on VHS, and it was like it's such a big part of her childhood. And even she was like, wow, that was not that was not what I remembered. So, anyway, we grow old, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, it might have been the other movie. That's the one that we watched Caravan of Courage with her. She may have a better
All
experience.
right. So, Fredo, you're not off the hook. We're going to have movie night again, and we're going to get everybody together now and watch Caravan of Courage and see if it is a better experience. So, all right. To trivia. Now, look, we've already got our brain warmed up, but trivia is kind of our thing. Um, all right. Fredo, who notes that the Jedi Council is asking him to commit treason?
Gee, I'm gonna go with Anakin Skywalker.
It is Anakin Skywalker, and I'm going to put this one off to the side because it's there's a I could have thrown a bush league question to you right off the bat. We'll come to that in a little bit. All right.
Okay.
So Fredo right off the bat scores a point. All right, Dave. Who grabs his blaster rifle for protection when he hears that sand people are approaching?
Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker it is. See, that one's kind of easy as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for me, whose last line in Return of the Jedi is "I won't leave you"? That's interesting. That's he doesn't say anything more after that, huh? It's Luke Skywalker. Yeah,
Hmm.
Luke Skywalker. All right. So here's the Bush League question I could have asked you. How many tentacles sprout from the gigantic blue head of the Twi'lek senator Orn Free Taa?
Two.
Probably. Right.
I mean, I'm
Probably
trying.
two.
It's
Yeah.
four.
Really?
Now I think I have the action figure here somewhere, so I could
It's
go find it.
isn't
But
that the center that George Lucas played?
no,
Pretty
George
sure.
Lucas played
No.
somebody else.
Okay.
Oh, I thought he played the Twilight guy.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, the big
No,
Twi'lek in
he
the back.
played the guy that looked like he was wearing a conductor's hat or something, and he was talking to his daughter in the opera lobby.
Uh,
Um, so anyway, that was all right, cool. Off of trivia, let's move on to some news. What do we got, Fredo?
so just a couple of bit of news then. Both of them having to do with fundraising and support. What's that? I can't find it. It's so I know we spoke a couple of weeks ago about the David Prowse estate putting up stuff for auction. So that auction was held last week during May the 4th, and they raised a total of. Now this is coming from the BBC, so I'm gonna give it to you in pounds. They raised over £400,000, which in American dollars that would be over $565,000. Uh, with a good bunch of it's going to go into charity and to nonprofit support
Was
involved in Alzheimer's research.
was there an item that got the most amount of money?
The top item was his rehearsal script for The Empire Strikes Back, which sold for over just over $32,500.
Wow.
Some of the stuff that kind of sold well included there was a picture of Mark Hamill signed for him that sold for like £15,000, so
So
just
that
about.
Empire, I'm sorry, that Empire script then would have said that no, Obi-Wan killed your father.
Hmm. Hmm.
That'd be cool to have.
Actually, well, no, because it's interesting. In the article the BBC has, they show a clip of the page where Luke and Vader are talking to one another. Where Luke goes, "I'll die first," and Vader's like, "That won't be necessary." And that's all before he throws him into the carbonite freezing chamber.
Interesting.
And then afterwards, apparently, while he says, "All too easy, perhaps you're not as strong as the Emperor thought," Luke goes, "Time will tell," from behind him. So you weren't supposed to see that Luke jumped out. So again, it's
So Irvin Kershner was more about showing rather than telling, which I appreciate that. Kind of funny on the script thing. A friend of mine in the 501st, he was actually friends with Peter Mayhew, and he got to handle and read through Peter Mayhew's A New Hope script.
oh, cool.
Yeah, isn't that cool? All right,
But
sorry.
well, speaking actually, no, perfect segue because the other bit of news for today is the Peter Mayhew Foundation is releasing a new challenge coin for 2021. They Uh, his foundation collects toys for kids battling any number of serious medical conditions that they donate. So the foundation raises toys, and uh, Peter and his outfit would go out to visit kids. He would go with the 501st. He would go with the Rebel Legion. So they've got a new campaign this year for $15 per coin, and they're going to be. They said that if you buy five, one of them will be a special silver edition. The art is designed with Peter. Was created by Peter's daughter. It's supposed to feature Peter on the cockpit of a Millennium Falcon. So I'll share the link, and Dave can throw the link on the show notes and descriptions just in case anybody's interested. But yeah, it's they're looking to raise funds for the Peter Mayhew Foundation.
Cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've got a 501st challenge coin that every time I go trooping, I make sure I have it just in case because I
Have to buy a beer.
don't want to lose that. Uh, so right on. Yeah, I just got to thinking maybe our next merch we should take the sticker that we have and we could make Who Dat Jedi challenge coins that people could buy. And
That'd be cool.
if they see us out in the wild, then they can throw down the challenge coin. We would always have to have it with us. I don't know. That might be kind of fun. Or we
Yep.
just make three of them, one for each of us. This is starting to sound like Lord of the Rings. All right, I'm going to move
Exactly.
on.
So we'll move on. We'll move on.
All right, so we talked about this a little bit at Zony Mash, because it was May the 4th, and maybe just a little underwhelming May the 4th. So we're gonna talk about that, but okay, uh, so I put on our notes Star Wars Day. Was it a bust?
Is this some kind of bust?
Is this
It's very impressive. Yes.
I was about ready to use it. Another, about ready to use another Naked Gun reference. But anyway, um,
I
so
just had it stuffed.
yeah. um, all right. So you can edit that out if you want to. But
Nah,
so,
nah.
but I mean, all right. But however, I'm going to because we were talking about this because we were all kind of underwhelmed by this. It's
Mm.
like there was really no. I mean, we got a glimpse of Disney's real lightsaber. That was kind of it. And
Yeah, like there was a bit of an announcement from the Star Wars Lego Skywalker Saga Twitter feed, but it didn't even announce date or anything. It just said stay tuned, and you're like, and then I think the other big piece of thing was Dave Filoni was interviewed in Good Morning America, and everybody kind of made a big deal that he said that the Force would be with season 3 of The Mandalorian, even though that it was pretty much a throwaway line. There was no indication or intonation as to it involving anything having to do with the plot. So
so
there really
now
wasn't anything.
So now I actually have I think it's fair to say that we were all kind of like I said kind of underwhelmed by this, but I was thinking about this as you brought it up for a topic, and then I was listening to another podcast, the Resistance broadcast, Star Wars Newsnet's podcast. It's a really fun podcast to listen to, and they brought up a really good point. So I mean this isn't my original point, but I think it's fair to bring it up here, and then I'll expand on it a little bit. Do you think because they chose to release Bad Batch on May the 4th, that if they would have then on that same day released behind the scenes look at, Andor or Obi-Wan or released this new collectible or showcased the real lightsaber more so than they did or did something else, do you think that would have killed kind of the premiere of the Bad Batch? Because right now the Bad Batch is actually one of the first episode I believe is one of the highest rated um, of the Star Wars animated, at least on Rotten Tomatoes. Um, but I could see their point that it's like if you do any of those other things, then social media is just going to drown out the Bad Batch because it's just another bunch of clones. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, it's a fun theory, but I'm not buying it really.
But
I
I mean,
mean,
especially you don't think there's any like being gun shy since they screwed up the marketing of Solo? It's like they got 16 episodes of this Bad Batch thing that it's like. you want to you want people to be excited about seeing it. So if that's really the biggest nugget that you're going to get on Star Wars Day, maybe you get more watchers off that. Oh no, sorry, I interrupted you
Well,
like I always do. Go ahead.
Well,
go ahead,
Fredo
Dave.
was going to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was actually kind of gonna agree with you, Dave, in the regard that no, because I mean we've had Star Wars days with multiple announcements, with multiple things happening, and they've been fine. I mean, put it this way: if they put out a trailer for the Book of Boba Fett and released the Bad Batch, I don't think they would have stepped on each other's toes. Put it that way. So go ahead, Dave.
I mean, I tend to be in agreement with that. I mean, if anything, if it's on Disney Plus, whatever and I don't know how things get out. If it shows up on Disney Plus, it's showing up on YouTube 5 minutes later. Um, but if it's on, if there's some kind of an exciting new trailer on Disney Plus, that's more incentive for someone to go to Disney Plus. So I don't think that it would work against you in that way. Um, but that's assuming it was a Disney Plus thing, and not, you know, theatrical, which is kind of the state of things right now. The the stuff that's coming down the pipeline right now is mostly all Disney Plus stuff. So I wouldn't have expected anything different, but I think I think by the same token, you could have done it in such a way that it wouldn't have detracted. Um, it only would have enhanced people's excitement. Like, I'm excited for Star Wars. I'm really excited. Oh gosh, I gotta go watch the Bad Batch. That's my take.
Has there become we've always talked about expectations on this podcast. I mean, has there become you know too much expectations from the fan base for May the 4th? Because I mean it's a it's not like Lucasfilm started Star Wars Day on May the 4th. I mean, it was a fan thing, and I remember when it kind of started, it was gave me an opportunity to wear Star Wars junk to work, or find there were trooping events and stuff like that. It was, I mean, I guess the baby cakes game.
Mm-hmm.
There would probably be a baby cakes game. That now that's almost a deep cut now, right? But so I mean, it was those types of things, and now it is almost like yeah, it the last couple years it's been like what do you think they're going to announce, what are they going to announce? And if I'm Lucasfilm, I'm sitting there going, what do we why do we have to, you know what I mean? It's like um
Well, I guess I'll put it, and also I'll add something else to it. And because I asked you when we were at Sony Mash if you had bought anything on May the 4th, and you said no. And I think the only thing I got this year was they had the ebook version of Into the Gray, Claudia's book. I believe no, it was Claudia Jusina's book on sale for $1. So I was able to get it.
Yeah,
And that was pretty much it. And I'm like, normally, May the 4th, it's like, oh, everybody's promoting, they're gonna sell this, they're gonna give you this kind of that. And all of a sudden this year, so it almost felt like, it's all right.
so that's a really good point, because I would think now I'm going to separate Lucasfilm theatrical things from merchandising, because I mean if you are any company that sells any sorts of Star Wars merchandise, to me, this seems to be the day that you have your specials. And there didn't seem to be a lot of anything.
There was the usual like 20% of this, 25% of that, but nothing really that kind of went, oh my gosh, I got to blow all my money on Star Wars
Or
stuff.
it felt like the dudes, pushing the shopping carts full of Mardi Gras toys, up and down, St. Charles. That's like, you know, yeah, you know, I,
Do,
I
do
mean,
I need a poop emoji pillow? No, I don't.
think about the Disney parks are, Disney's been hurting for money. Man, what a good day it would have been to say, hey, all of Doc Ondor's lightsabers are whatever, half off,
Right.
or 75%, or 25% off, maybe I would have bought a lightsaber. Who knows? But there wasn't a lot of that. Dave, you said you wanted
Yeah.
to add something.
Yeah, no, I mean it's just so you're speaking to a larger issue, right, Fredo? You say, well, did you buy anything? So it's like, was the entire day a bust? And I think like, is it is it more so that their marketing in general is a bust right now, not just May the 4th, but what have we gotten from them? And this is the question that I pose to myself and I pose to you guys, which is, what kind of trailers have we received over the last 5 months for anything other than maybe Bad Batch and a little tease for Book of Boba Fett, um, and
Uh,
like and that's it. And then I went back further, and I thought, well, what was the last good trailer that really like got me excited, and I was like, okay, I'm in it to win it at this point. I'm in Star Wars. Um, for me, it was the Last Jedi trailer. I mean, even with the rise of Skywalker stuff, it was like, yeah, fist pump, Palpatine or whatever. But then it was like, you sat there and you thought about it, and you're like, well, how are they going to play all this out? I'm really curious to
Let
see the
me
movie, but it's like,
well let me
I
take
think we had the debate: would it have been better if they had not even revealed Palpatine in the trailers?
let me take it to
Yeah,
a kind of on a street just right alongside that one, because I was listening to the Resistance broadcast, and they were talking about the new High Republic book that has either been released or announced, and I just got the thought came into my head, like, and with all due respect to this has nothing to do with any of the authors or anything, but right now it's just my general feeling is I really don't give a crap about the High Republic. I mean, it's not that I don't want to read it. It's just it's not even remotely on my radar. I was more excited to watch the Ewoks movie with Dave and Kate and my wife than I am to, but it did, however, after I heard that on this podcast, it's like, you know what, I do need to go down and, get some of the comic books and things like that. But I mean, so to your marketing point, it's just kind of like, I don't, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like Lucasfilm is almost like that band that, knows they're good and doesn't feel like they have to really hustle anymore to get people to come to their shows.
but you say that, but then compare it to their cousin once removed, Marvel. You saw the trailer that they put out, what was it, last week? About Marvel celebrates going to the
it was that
movies.
day. I think it was
Yeah,
May the 4th.
yeah, where they come out and they're just showing
It
you
was the
their
day. It
hits.
was the day before because everybody
Oh,
was hyped thinking we are going to get something Star Wars ish. So it was
and
May
then
3rd
didn't.
when that came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how excited did that make people feel to go see Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Black Panther 2, all the stuff that's coming out from them. And you're like, okay, great, that's all awesome stuff. I mean, part of the when we say marketing, part of it's also managing and building expectations. And whereas Marvel knows what they're doing, Star Wars almost felt like they were like,
Well, and that
we'll catch you,
and
we'll
that
get you.
and that Marvel trailer, it was more like the member berries from South Park. It was like, remember Endgame, remember Doctor Strange, remember Black Panther. I mean, there was nothing really new in it. It was just like, yeah, this is awesome, and that's really all Star Wars needed to do was like, remember Ewoks, remember Palpatine. It's just, you totally could have you totally could have done something like that. Yeah. So, but however, are we? Do, we demand stuff?
Right.
Are
Right.
we owed something by to from Lucasfilm? Do they are should it be? Or is it just would it just be smart business on their part to say, all right, we need to have something, but of course, again, maybe Bad Batch was there. This is our flagship May the 4th thing, but they really didn't make it into an event. It was just like it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think we are owed, but I think somebody smart gives you what you want before you know you want it. We didn't know we are going to get that Marvel trailer, which at best gave you glimpses of, it cut all movies and then a few glimpses of some of the new movies we've sort of seen, and then title cards. So again, we didn't get anything truly extra. Maybe a shot of Angelina Jolie in the Eternals, that kind of thing. But by and large, they knew they could put out something like that, and it was going to excite their fan base. And there you go, job done.
Member
Yeah,
berries. Yeah.
right, right. Well, but what I mean is, imagine if they had just put out a little trailer showing, because they got behind the scenes stuff they're currently filming. Andor is filming right now. They could have put out, say, hey, next year, and just get a couple of minutes talking to Diego Luna and the cast of Andor. Boom, here you go. Coming,
You don't even have to show like a
a
clip or
million
anything. You just
footage.
show Diego Luna walking down the sidewalk in his, costume, and everybody just goes bah. Or you just show, you surely have that footage of Ewan McGregor, doing his, screen test, or costume test or whatever in the volume. It's like you just show that, and it just would make people's heads explode.
That's what
You
I mean. If they wouldn't have given him any extra, it blows minds.
cut together a trailer with existing footage from Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith, and The Mandalorian, and people would lose their minds over it. I mean, it would be all that anybody was talking about for the rest of the day, right? And I guess like that's where we talked about, is that the debate, would it overshadow everything else? But it's like,
Well, but I still wonder because it's not like we were getting the book of Boba Fett. It's not like we were getting, you know, a show that, we had some sort of frame of reference for. Yeah, we got 4 episodes of The Bad Batch in the Clone Wars, but for a lot of people, the Bad Batch is not something that's going to make my brother want to make sure he gets on Disney Plus and watch this stuff. It's going to be for the people who watch the Clone Wars, and so
It's like the
I
High
I
Republic
think
for you.
I do think there's probably a little bit we don't want to steal even the slightest bit of thunder because this is we're I think it was a little bit of a roll of the dice, you know, releasing Bad Batch as a series. And I think this is a good segue into our next topic because I'm going to tell you, I am pleasantly surprised by what we're getting from the Bad Batch. I it was because I didn't when I when they said this was coming, I was like, first of all, I didn't really enjoy those 4 episodes or whatever it was in the last season of the Clone Wars. Um, so I wasn't all excited about it. I mean, yeah, curmudgeon Aaron, but I was like from the get go, they had me on these first 2 episodes, and I'm in. So I mean, I don't know. That's just my instant reaction. So let's just go instant reactions of Bad Batch from you guys. Go ahead.
I liked it. I mean, I will say I did not expect it to start where it started. And I think I even sent a tweet out saying, like, I can't believe that they start with Depa Balaba and Kanan Jarrus, aka Caleb Doom,
And we'll
and
talk
seeing
about
Order
that in a little
66.
bit because I do have
That was
Dave.
like, that was,
Dave and I were talking about that over the smoker and beer. About
yeah,
that
I was
that
like,
being.
talk about not giving you something you didn't know you wanted, but it's like, oh my god, we're seeing it. So no, I'm into it. I'm enjoying it. It's exactly kind of what I thought it would be in terms of okay, seeing the aftermath of the Clone War, seeing the immediate after effects or of how stuff transitions from Republic to the Empire. So I'm enjoying it.
yeah, I think it's been pretty good so far because I like this era because it's unmined, so to speak. Like
Hmm.
we don't know much about what happens in the immediate aftermath of the Clone Wars. Um, the early days of the Empire, the early days of Darth Vader, all of these kinds of things are potential stories that you could tell through the lens of the Bad Batch, and so I like it in concept, and so far I've enjoyed the show. Um,
You
and
know,
and it threw that curveball at us, which was like the main plot element, which is you have Omega, this new clone, and that's going to obviously be of critical importance as the show goes along. And so that's kind of like the hook. The, she which was a bit of a revelation as well. She's kind of the MacGuffin, I guess. She's going to be the idol in Indiana Jones, who everybody's chasing after, and we're gonna
Actually,
have.
it wasn't that much of a reveal because actually the is like when the trailers came out, some of the international trailers they were using the female pronouns um, in the subtitles, I
I
believe.
think if you wanted to know, you knew.
Yeah. Um, so the other part of this,
But
it's like again, the in the I, I'm enjoying the characters
mm,
actually. I mean, it was like again they kind of I was bothered by them in the Clone Wars, and now it's like because I took the afternoon off today, and I just sitting there and I watched the first episode again, and I'm enjoying the characters. So I think and it's really tricky because the same dude is doing the voice for all of those clones, so that's got to be you got to make sure that you're giving each person's personality come out in this. Now I will say, like I said, Dave and I were talking about. So, okay, spoiler alert, everybody. So if you haven't watched this, then hit pause, go watch it, and then come back. But it starts. I was actually golfing with a friend, and he hadn't watched it yet. And I said, he goes, "When does it?" I said, "Well, it starts like 5 minutes before Order 66, which I think is genius." Um, and so out comes, what, and they do that whole intro and they say Depa Balaba, and I was like, well, that's interesting because we got a glimpse of her and little Kanan Jarrus in the Clone Wars final season, in the hologram thing, and then it's like all of a sudden here comes little Kanan Jarrus who's voiced by Freddie Prince Jr. It's just like, or Caleb Doom, I suppose, but it was like, oh, this is really kind of cool. And so Dave and I were talking about this, it's one of those elements that if you don't know, it doesn't take away your I guess enjoyment is probably a bad word, but your understanding of that scene because you're seeing a Padawan witness his master's
Yeah,
murder, and so it doesn't it now if you've been watching Clone Wars and Rebels and everything, and when she says Caleb, first of all, Depa Balaba, then Caleb, you're like, oh my god, it takes it to another element. So I don't know. Or did you think that that was too much fan service? Did that you know was that? I mean, could they have done that just with a random Jedi Master and um, Padawan, or could it have been? I don't know.
wouldn't have been as impactful. But and I also, I'm glad that we're sort of giving us just a few minutes to talk about this because there is potential for confusion where somebody would watch that sequence and not realize that that's Kanan because he changes his name. Um, and so like yeah, no, that's him as a boy watching his master get murdered in front of him, and yeah, it's very effective. And as to your point, Aaron, I will concede that I think it works on multiple levels. It works on the level of this is just like horrifying.
Well, and it adds so much
Um,
more weight to those early Rebels episodes where Rex comes back and Kanan does
mhm,
not like the clones. So it adds a
yeah.
lot of weight to that.
Yeah, yeah, no, like can you imagine you got these people who just you saw gun down your master, and they're like, trust me, come here, kid. That's probably almost more traumatic for him ultimately, and that his heart was in the right place in that moment, but um,
there's no trust. There is no trust.
no, no, sir.
No, no.
I'm like, run.
I mean,
And
the last thing his master told him is run.
yeah,
He's following orders.
So that's interesting because I've actually read. Have you guys read the Kanan comic books?
No, but I've
Was
heard that there's some sort of conflict now
Well,
with both of them.
yeah. I mean, because in the Kanan comic books, the Bad Batch isn't there. but they're on the same planet. I mean, so this is where the canon gatekeepers like are going nuts, right? And it's like, to me, it's like, have you never, you know, studied history at all? If you were to go to the bookstore right now and a buy three books on the Battle of New Orleans, you are going to get three similar accounts. You're not it's there's everybody's got their own little twist or something they found out or something like that. So I have no problem seeing this and it's like, okay, yeah, it's the bad because it's, you know, from a certain point of view, right? So
Right,
I'm not going to come down on Lucasfilm Story Group here. Can you believe that? I'm not going to come down on because it's the same place. It's not like the Battle of New Orleans took place in Baton Rouge. It's not like we're changing that. So it's in the same place. It's still, you know, the same master and apprentice. There's just this other element that maybe whoever wrote the comic book didn't think it was important.
and I think it serves a much bigger point, which is why I always tend to give stories a certain amount of leeway when they're changing something plot wise to try to get to something deeper, more emotional. I think the bigger point was they spent particularly that first episode juxtaposing how different the Bad Batch were from the rest of their clone brethren, which didn't necessarily come off in the Bad Batch arc in the last season of Clone Wars,
I agree.
because we're accustomed to seeing Rex and Echo and the whole Jesse and the rest of them as being kind of different from the rest. But they make a clear point that the Bad Batch stands apart from the rest of the clones. So it will make sense that the first big way that does that is when their inhibitor chips don't quite work the same way. And even within them, they don't quite work the same way as they do
Well,
within
and
them.
that's the interesting thing. I don't know if my kind of eyes went open. I always just thought the inhibitor chip was, the thing, the mechanism that Palpatine was going to be able to use to execute Order 66. But they're really now saying, no, this is mind control.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because they go from being pro Republic to,
Kill the Jedi.
kill not just, okay, I have to kill the Jedi because I'm told to, but we're pro Empire, now. So, and it really, um, it makes me think of something I think would be kind of a cool idea for a show. I'll talk to you guys off the air. Um, However, can I say one nit that I have is
Mm.
Tech. I like the character Tech, but right now his job is to go, hey kids, it's Saw Gerrera, the one who was trained by Obi-Wan and Anakin in season whatever of the Clone Wars or hey,
Storm,
what was
Stormtrooper info dump.
yeah, what was the other one? It was yeah, he's always telling you where we're at in the timeline. For example, Obi-Wan Kenobi is, on Utapau, and but he's like the only point of exposition, and it's so obvious that it's like it's one of those things. That's just there's a couple instances of it. It's like, it's like, hey kids, if you haven't done the homework, I just gave you enough to Google that you can find out what episode you need to go watch. That's just a little nit. I don't know.
I'll circle back to your previous point, which was the ethical concerns of mind control on these clones. It's like we've seen some of this touched on ever so briefly where it comes to droids. Like, and what is ethical? What constitutes ethical treatment? How do you differentiate them from living, breathing people? And there's a similar sort of differentiation between people who aren't cloned versus people who are. And I think it would be fun to explore that a lot deeper. And I don't know if they'll get there in this series or not, but it's something I'm really eager to see more of.
I think also, first of all, to anybody who's thinking about it looks gorgeous. It is just the animation is great. With the exception of this is just really kind of interesting. The human body is the movements of the human body is like almost impossible to get, isn't it? It's like because it's like when Omega is like jumping up for joy because she just saw dirt for the first time. You know, um, it's just it looks like Shrek right away. I mean, it just looks like the people from Shrek. You know what I mean? It's like if they're dressed up as clones, if they're dressed up as clone troopers, it like works because it doesn't look like they're wearing armor and stuff like that. But when it's just somebody who's a human being, that animation is just tough. And I mean, I would like to hear an animator talk about why that is so difficult.
I mean, it's. I mean, you got to. I mean, when you consider they're animating the environments, the lighting, the sets, the characters, but this is all. I mean, historically, I mean, through Clone Wars, we saw them all these characters in armor, in battleships. By and large, I mean, the only non-armored characters were the Jedi, or maybe some of the Senators whenever we get those arcs. But it's going to be completely different now because, on the one hand, they got much more technology to make it even better, but on the other hand, we are more cognizant of these subtler changes. Like we may have been more forgiving way a decade or so ago than we are now.
So Dave's alarm has gone off. We want to wrap up this conversation, but I want to encourage people to watch this because, like I said, it's even if you didn't watch the Clone Wars, I think this is actually kind of a nice post prequel trilogy. You know, just
Yeah, yeah,
expand like you
that's a
said.
that's a fair point too. It's just like if even if you're like, I'm not into the Clone Wars, I'm not into the prequels. It's like, well, this is post that.
Yeah, and so I think that's really cool. However, I am hoping that the next thing we get from Lucasfilm does not have some, adult single male adopt a, small creature and try to help them find their way through life. I'm hoping we're not going to get the same storyline that we just got from The Mandalorian. That,
Notice that, huh?
oh, you
Yeah,
think?
that'd be my one critique is that it seems a little bit familiar,
Yeah, but
but
this isn't Lone Wolf and Cub. This is like Pack of Wolves and Cub. Um, but it'll be. But I'm going to.
Well, don't worry, Book of Boba Fett will have you Lone Wolf and Lone Wolf.
That's right. And I'm still throwing money down that we're going to see Boba Fett in this. It's 16 episodes, everybody. We're 2 down, so you got 14 more weeks of the Bad Batch coming at you. So um, yeah, so that's our show for this evening. And as always, let your friends know where they can find us. We're like on all the podcast stuff, at least the big stuff. And hit us up on Twitter and Facebook, and we'll try to make sure that we have our Who Dat Jedi stickers with us when we're out in public. If you see us, tap us, and we'll get you a sticker. So, you know, yeah, it's not a challenge coin or anything, but but it's pretty damn
and
cool.
and let us know if you think the marketing late has been subpar or not. Maybe we'll put up a poll.
Yeah,
Good idea.
I think that'd be a good idea. So, with that, we will say Who Dat. And by the way, the Who Dat part of it, the Saint schedule comes out tomorrow.
Tonight,
Oh, tonight.
tonight, I thought.
I thought it was tomorrow. It's being leaked. Things are being leaked all over the place, but oh well.
Oh, well.
So we'll find out who the Saints are playing, and
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Tomorrow.
say that one. What was that last part?
Tomorrow.
No, what was the part before that?
You're right.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. With that, we will say who dat,
Who that?
Who dat?
and have a good week, everybody.
McConkey.